How do you build big bridges with people that you in your life that you can't write off? You know, your next door neighbor, your parents, your brother-in-law. What does it look like in terms of just, you know, I can't, and there might be a safety issue there. So what is the point by which you do draw the line and say you can't be part of my circle of belonging? But let's just sort of take that back a little bit, and you know, one person says, why should I wear a mask? And we believe otherwise. One person is thinking all lives matter, and the other thinks otherwise. How do we reconcile that within our own communities? We've got a lot of people calling in from rural, small communities, and they got to live with these folks, right? You can't just write them off.
Well, two things. One, I talk about, and some of you heard me say this before, but when I first introduced the idea of building bridges to Pastor McBride here in the Bay Area, he asked me the question, are you saying I have to bridge with the devil? And my response was, don't start there. And start with short bridges. Start with things you can do. And as bridging is a practice, you get better at it. Just turn that off, sorry.
As you do that, that was the best advice you gave me several years ago. Build short bridges, Kevin, and my mind exploded. And it gave me permission to not be perfect or not reach for that person who's way over there. But there's 1,000 people in between that I can practice building short bridges with. And eventually I got to that person on the other side because I had a bunch of short bridges. Right. Thank you. Keep going.
And the thing is, and the other thing I said to Pastor McBride is also be careful who you call the devil. And so once you call someone the devil, you've already categorized them, you know. So in some ways, and King talked about this as well, he talked about leaving the light on the porch. And he was saying, I won't go chase the segregationists. I won't go chase the racists, but I'll leave the light on. I'm always open if they ever want to sit down and talk. And to your point, Kevin, yes, you have a right to be safe. But just make sure that your safety is not extending beyond what's necessary. And in your being safe, you're not causing someone else to be unsafe. And then finally, bridging doesn't mean you agree with someone. It doesn't mean you're adopting their position. The practice of bridging, what's really needed is deep listening, is deep compassion. There are certain conditions. And again, start with what you can do. And saying someone's in your circle doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to bring them home. So it's just saying you're acknowledging that person has dignity and human, that person has their own goals, that person has their own reasons. And at times you're willing to listen to it. And Charles Taylor's written about this in The Politics of Recognition. When people are recognized, more often than not, they open up. And so people need to be recognized. And so I've literally talked to rural white Trump supporters. And in most cases, I can talk to them. And I'll just give you a 30-second clip of this. I was invited to talk to, I think it was rural Arkansas, people about the Affordable Care Act. All white, my guess is all Trump supporters. And the atmosphere was thick with disdain as I walked in. And my host said, we had another person here talking about this last week, Affordable Care Act, and they got booed off the stage, but good luck. And they put me on the stage, and I said, I kind of lied. I said, nice to be here. And then I said, before we start, listen, I want to hear from you. I want to get to know you a little bit. And I said, so let's do this thing. If any of you have lost healthcare insurance because you lost your job, stand up and then stay standing. If any of you have had a kid suffer because they couldn't get the medicine the doctor prescribed because insurance companies wouldn't pay for it, stand up. If any of you have pre-existing, and I asked about 2 or 3 more questions. Now everybody's standing up. Now, initially they were like this, arms folded. Now no one, arms folded. And then I said, let's just go around the room and let's hear your story. And people told their story. And by the end of the thing, people were like so interested in connecting. And I said, what's happening in your community? It's happening in the Black community. It's happening in the Native community. It's happening in the Latino community. Only worse. I didn't lose one person. But if I'd gone in there talking about you should care about Black people, it wouldn't happen. right? But I started with, tell me about your suffering. Tell me about your story. Tell me about your pain. And I'm willing to hear. I'm willing to listen. That created a bridge. Now, am I going to invite them to my party that Kevin's coming to? Probably not. But I realize they have their own humanity, they have their own suffering, they have their own aspirations. So recognizing that someone's in your circle or in the circle, not your circle, in the circle of human concern.